Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Empowerment Time. My name is Tashika Harris, and I am the founder of Crowning Daughters for Success Enrichment Program, a program that creates confidence without compromise. Welcome to Empowerment Time. This is a time that we empower you for life. We're going to go over something that I feel is so needed during this time. Whether you are attending a meeting online, whether you are attending virtual school, we all need a little lesson in etiquette. And with the pandemic and all that has happened, we all had to adjust our lifestyles a little. We all had to make sacrifices to keep ourselves safe as well as others. One of the things that I enjoyed the most about facilitating was face-to-face, because I was able to feel and I was able to demonstrate, I was able to touch. It was so empowering for me to be face-to-face. It was just a different type of feeling that you get. And I was a little disappointed when I found out that I had to go virtual. And I thought it was going to be different. And I thought it was going to be like a wall in between myself and those who were participating. However, I knew that it was a needed space and that I would yet have to try it out because it was necessary. It was necessary, again, for my safety as well as the safety of others. So I would have been willing to wear a spacesuit if it could get me back in a building, but that was not, that just wasn't possible. What would be that change? I want to give you about 10 to 15 seconds to think about if it's the pandemic, if it's, maybe a family change, a lifestyle change. Think about a change that you actually had to adjust with or adjust to. What is that change? Okay, all right. So I'm glad you thought about that particular change. And I want you to think about what's one positive thing you feel you did to deal with that change. Okay, so you're having some self-discussion with Miss T when it comes to school, from primary grades to college and universities. Many things have changed, though what you learned has not changed, but the way you are learning has definitely changed. This type or way of learning has affected us all. We are all learning how to keep the show going virtually. My grandmother used to say, what did she say? One monkey does not stop the show. And so though COVID and this pandemic and so many other things has happened, but these things will not stop your learning. It will not stop you from living, and it will not stop you from thriving. And so I understand the frustration of it. I understand the fear. I understand the anxiety. That is some natural emotions that we all have felt during this journey. And we want everyone's experience virtually to be an experience that you can learn and grow together. And the only way we're going to have that productive and positive experience virtually is if we all understand that just as we have expectations and codes of conduct for face-to-face, we have expectations and codes for conduct virtually as well. I want to go over some tidbits that will assist you in being the best that you can be virtually as you represent yourself and as you learn in a different way. Your conduct matters virtually just as it matters if you're in school or at a mall or at a conduct. The way you behave, the proper or appropriate or inappropriate things that you do will affect your virtual environment. So I challenge you to check your conduct and make sure that it is a behavior that you can be proud of. Your attitude matters face to face as well as virtually. Your ideas, your values, and your expression. These things are all a part of your attitude, and it will impact any environment, virtually or face to face. For anyone hears you, right, virtually, they see you. And so, being that they see you, yes, what you wear matters. Even if you are in the privacy of your own home and you're rolling out of bed and you're putting in that code to log on, what you wear shows how much you care or how less you cared that morning. And I'm not talking about labels and I'm not talking about name brand. I am talking about caring enough to make sure that your image is a representation of what you think of you. You have to be professional, even virtual. There are rules, there are dress codes, and we want you to make sure that when you're invited to a virtual session, ask, what is the dress code? Is my camera going to be on or off? There have been many times that I thought the camera was going to be off, and then someone asked me to turn my camera on. What I had on mattered. If you are on a virtual empowerment and you are representing an organization, you are branding that organization and yourself in the mind of the facilitator. You're branding good thoughts or negative thoughts. You're branding a mindset about yourself as well as the organization, the way you behave, the way you dress. One of the other things that I feel is very, very important, and I think I learned it the hard way, is because sometimes we think it's virtual. You know, we dress from the waist up. But what happens if you're doing an activity and you have to stand up? So make sure you dress for your virtual. And I'm learning that, I said, the very hard way. You want to make sure that you are going to be appropriate if you're sitting down, and you're going to be appropriate if you have to stand up. If you can hear it, that means if your mic is unmuted, everyone else can hear it. Follow the directives of your host. If your host say video on, turn your video on. If your host mute your mic, don't unmute your mic. Make sure that you follow these directives, because every virtual is different. Some virtuals you're unmuted the whole time, and other virtuals you have to unmute or mute the entire times. If you need to speak, you use your hand icons, and you can see the hand icon in the center of your device. You have a hand that you can raise, you have a hand that you can clap, and you have a thumb that you can put up. And if you cannot see any of the icons, then simply raise your hand if you have a question. One of the things that that help with virtual environments is respecting others who are speaking. And I know you might have something to say and it may be really important, but you need to wait for the host to give you the direction to speak, or it could be just a whole bunch of mumbo and no one understands. So if you need to speak, make sure you raise your hand, and then you make sure you follow the directives of your host. And this is a little funny because I've seen it so many times. Make sure that if you chat about it, whatever it is that you're chatting about, your host will be privy to that information at the end of your virtual. So make sure when you chat, it is positive it is productive, and it is polite. Positive, productive, and polite when you are using your chat. And when you're using your chat, make sure that you are chatting about the topic and it is nothing negative. Save your negativity for your follow-up conversations. We know that you're doing virtuals from your home. We want to make sure that you are in a space that you can concentrate. And we know things happen. So if mama is walking up and you need to ghost out for a little while, ghost it out, but make sure you send the host a private chat. I'm coming back on. This is an emergency and I cannot tell my mama no. We understand that things happen. Everyone is getting into the swing of doing things virtually, but we want you to also understand to put certain things in place so that you know exactly what to do if something comes when up. Participating, keep a positive and open mind. Do not drop off or do not ghost your host, because that sends a very negative message. If you have to leave because it's an emergency, you privately chat or state that in a chat, but mainly talk about these things before the virtual starts. If you commit to a virtual, make sure that you are committed to that virtual and you stay until the end of the virtual. That would be the professional thing to do. Eat before you log on. I have caught so many people and they think when they put their hand over their mouth, I don't see them. It is the biggest clue that you are eating, and it can be unprofessional. Again, follow the directives of your host. If the host has already set rules in place, no eating, no drinking, try to do that before your virtual. No poker faces. Some people like myself, I'm very expressional and I wear my feelings on my face. So if you say something that's awkward, I might look awkward, and I've had to train my face to look the same on the virtuals. And if it's awkward, I can only be the person to know that it's awkward because it's disrespectful to the person that's speaking or the person that's hosting to see awkwardness all over my face. So make sure you control your facial expressions and make sure that you're giving your undivided attention, just as you would in a classroom, just as you would on a job interview, just as you would if you were meeting someone very important. Make sure you give the same respect that you would want. Make the experience great. And the only way you can make the experience great is if you log on 10 minutes before, make sure you mute your device, turn your cameras on if that is a directive, keep your cameras off if that is a directive, be positive and polite in the chat, make sure you stay on the topic of the theme, and make sure you participate. If the virtual calls for participation, make sure you answer questions, raise your hand, give hand claps, because you'll never know how hard a host job is until you have to do it. So let's make virtual safe, let's make virtual fun, and let's make virtual a learning experience that everyone can enjoy. This has been Empowerment.